الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, respected viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new lesson of Fiqh al-Zakat. In today's lesson, we will cover the topic of Zakatu al-Khariji min al-Ard, or Zakat of products from earth. First, let's define what is the zakat of al-kharij min al-ard, or the zakat of products from earth. The products from earth refers to anything that is produced from the earth, which can be used or consumed. The products from earth are of the following types. Number one, we have grains and fruits. Number two, we have minerals. And number three, we have buried treasures. Now let's go to the next slide to learn about the rules of the zakat of grains and fruits. First, let's define what are the grains and fruits that a Muslim must pay zakat on them. A zakat on the grains and fruits is referred to any grains that can be measured and stored. For example, barley, wheat, rice, and so on. Now the fruits are anything that can be measured and stored. For example, dates, raisins, almonds, pistachios, and so on. Now when it comes to the ruling on zakat on grains and fruits, the zakat on grains and fruits is obligatory. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, كُلُوا مِن ثَمَرِهِ إِذَا أَثْمَرَ وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. This is in Surah Al-An'am, the interpretation of the meaning. Eat of their fruit when they ripen, but pay the due thereof, meaning its zakat. And this is, as we said, ayah from Surah Al-An'am. Now, what are the conditions that necessitate a zakat on grains and fruits? The first condition, that it should be measured in wasaqs. And basically, al-wasaq is a measurement that was used in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ليس فيما دون خمسة أوسق صدقة, which means there is no zakat on wheat until its quantity reaches 5 أوسق. The second condition is that it must be stored goods, and therefore zakat is not required on vegetables and fruits because they are not measured or stored. Zakat, however, is obligatory on fruits that are measured and stored, as we mentioned earlier, such as dates, raisins, almond, cashews, and so on. Now, if they are not measured with wasaq and cannot be stored, such as peaches, apples, bananas, potatoes, etc., then there is no zakat on them. And when we say stored, we are not talking about freezers and coolers. We are talking about the natural way of storage. So freezers and coolers do not make a zakat obligatory because they store fruits and vegetables. The third condition is bulugh nisab, the attainment of nisab. And nisab, as we learned from the previous hadith, is khamsatu awsuq, 5 awsuq. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, ليس فيما دون 5 أوسق صدقة, which means, as we said, there is no zakat on wheat until its quantity reaches 5 awsuq. So 5 awsuq are 60 sa'. This is a measurement of the people of Medina at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, like we said, 5 awsuq are 60 sa', and a sa' is approximately 2.30 kilograms. 2.30 kilograms. And therefore, 60 sa' or 5 awsuq are about 615 kilograms. 615 kilograms. So that is a nisab of the fruits and grains. So when the fruits and grains reaches the weight of 615 kilograms, then there is zakat on them. Now when it comes to the period in which zakat on grains and fruits is due, it is obligatory for the Muslim to pay zakat on grains when they have hardened and on fruits when they have ripened. And therefore, when grains and fruits are ready to be consumed, the Muslim has to pay their zakat. In other words, there is no hawl for this kind of wealth. There is no hawl when it comes to grains and fruits. So the Muslim cannot wait the entire Hijri year to pay zakat on grains and fruits. He pays zakat the moment they are ready to be consumed or when he harvests them. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, كُلُوا مِن ثَمَرِهِ إِذَا أَثْمَرَ وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. Interpretation of the meaning: eat of their fruit when they ripen, but pay the due thereof. Meaning pay the zakat the moment the fruits have ripened. Now let's talk about something very important, and that is the rate of zakat on grains and fruits. The rate of zakat on grain and fruits differs according to the method of irrigation. It is obligatory for the Muslim to pay 1/10 or 10% from that which was irrigated with no inconvenience or no stress, meaning the Muslim did not have to look for the water or pay to get it. An example of that, the crops that were irrigated with rains and streams. So in that case, the Muslim pays 10% of the crops that reached an-nisab. It is obligatory for the Muslim to pay half of 1/10 or 5% from that which is irrigated with water from wells. So the farmer who uses wells and modern watering and irrigation equipment, he only pays 5%. He only pays 5% of the grains and fruits that reached an-nisab. It is obligatory for the Muslim to pay 3/4 of 1/10 or 7.5% from that which was irrigated in the two manners together, meaning sometimes the Muslim farmer had to use his watering and irrigation equipment, and sometimes he used the rain and the streams. In this case, he pays 7.5% zakat of the grains and fruits that reached an-nisab. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, فيما سقت الأنهار والغيم وفيما سقي بالثانية نصف العشر. Meaning, from that which was irrigated by water from the sky, rivers and streams, 1/10 is paid. As for that which was irrigated by a saniya, and a saniya is a camel that is used to draw water from the well to irrigate crops, in that case, half of 1/10 is payable. Is it permissible to pay the value of the grains and fruits instead of paying the grains and fruits themselves? In other words, is it permissible for the Muslim farmer to pay the value of the grains and the fruits? So basically he gives cash instead of paying the grains and fruits themselves. And if we go back to the previous lessons and we ask similar question, is it permissible for the Muslim to give cash instead of the camel, or cash instead of the cow, or cash instead of the sheep, when we talked about the zakat of cattle? The answer: it is not permissible to pay the value instead of the item itself, except in the case of non-existence, because the zakat is an act of worship and we cannot substitute the item for its value unless we have a proof. We have a proof from the Quran or from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if we look at the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam took a zakat from the farmers from the item itself, and took camels and cows and sheep and did not take their values. Imam Shawkani rahimahullah ta'ala said, the truth of the matter is that zakat is obligatory on the item itself and should not be substituted for its value except where there is a valid excuse. So this is something very important that the Muslim should be aware of. In the next slide, we will learn how to calculate the zakat of grains and fruits. In the first example, we have Zaid, and Zaid owns an agricultural land and did not use any equipment for irrigation. The land produced the following: 6,000 kilograms of dates, 3,200 kilograms of olives, 4,500 kilograms of grapes, and 2,350 kilograms of rice. How does he calculate his zakat? First, let's take a look if these items or these fruits and grains have reached the nisab. The dates have reached the nisab, the olives, the grapes, the rice. So everything has reached the nisab because the nisab is 615 kilograms and this is way more than 615 kilograms. But we have one thing here. The olives, there is no zakat on them because olives are considered to be fruits and vegetables and cannot be preserved. The other thing that we have to look at is the method of irrigation. How did Zaid irrigate his land? And as we can see in this example, he did not use any equipment. Basically, he used the rain and the rivers. Therefore, his zakat will be calculated as follows. We take the 6,000 kilograms of dates and we multiply them by 10% and it will give us 600 kilograms. That's the zakat of dates that he has to give. Or we can take the 6,000 and divide it by 10 and it will give us the same result, 600 kilograms. For the grapes, we take the 4,500 kilograms multiplied by 10% and it will give us 450 kilograms of grapes. That's the amount of grapes he needs to give as zakat. Or we take the 4,500 divided by 10 and it will give us the same result. Finally, the rice, we take the 2,350 kilograms of rice multiplied by 10% and it will give us 235 kilograms. Or we take the 2,350 kilograms of rice and divide it by 10 and it will give us 235 kilograms of rice, and that's the rice he needs to give as zakat. Let's go to the next slide to work with another example. In this example, Amr owns an agricultural land and used his own equipment for irrigation. The land produced the following: 3,900 kilograms of dates, 3,200 kilograms of potatoes, 9,500 kilograms of grapes, and 3,700 kilograms of wheat. How does he calculate his zakat? Again, we need to look at the zakatable items here, and the zakat is obligatory on the dates, the grapes, and the wheat, but not on the potatoes. The second thing we need to see is, did these items reach the nisab? And as you can see from this example, they all reached a nisab. The third thing is we have to look at the method of the irrigation. And in our example, Amr used his own equipment for irrigation. And therefore his calculation of zakat will be as follows. We take the 3,900 kilograms of dates multiplied by 5%, 5% and not 10%, 5% because he used his own equipment for irrigation. And therefore he pays 5%. So 3,900 kilograms multiplied by 5% and it gives us 195 kilograms of dates. That's the amount of dates he needs to give as zakat. Or we take the 3,900 kilograms of dates divided by 20 and it will give us the same result. When it comes to the grapes, we take the 9,500 kilograms of grapes multiplied by 5% and it would give us 475 kilograms of grapes, or 9,500 kilograms of grapes divided by 20 and it would give us 475 kilograms of grapes, and that's the amount of grapes he needs to give as zakat. Lastly, the wheat, 3,700 kilograms of wheat multiplied by 5% and it would give us 185 kilograms of wheat, or 3,700 kilograms of wheat divided by 20 and it will give us the same result, 185 kilograms of wheat, and that's the amount of wheat he needs to give as zakat. Finally, we will go to the next slide to cover zakatu al-ma'adini wal-rikaz, which means the zakat of minerals and buried treasures. So what are the minerals? The minerals are that which is extracted from the earth but not having the semblance of the earth, meaning it's not dust, it is not dirt. For example, gold, silver, iron, gems, petroleum, and other crud substances extracted from the earth. The buried treasures are properties buried on earth from pre-Islamic civilizations. For example, gold, silver, or the like. So if someone finds something that belongs to the Islamic civilization, that is not called rikaz, it is not called buried treasure, it is called luqata. So now when it comes to the ruling on zakat of minerals and buried treasures, the zakat on minerals and buried treasures is obligatory. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا من طيبات ما كسبتم ومما أخرجنا لكم من الأرض. The interpretation of the meaning, O you who believe, spend of the good things that you have earned and of what we have brought out for you from the earth. Now when it comes to the conditions for zakat on minerals and buried treasures, there are no conditions for zakat on minerals and buried treasures. For the minerals, if it reaches an nisab, that's the only condition. If it reaches an nisab, meaning the nisab of gold or silver, then the person must pay 2.5% of that mineral. So 2.5% is payable if the mineral reaches a nisab of either gold or silver. Now when it comes to the zakat on rikaz, the zakat on the buried treasures, there is no conditions. The moment he finds it, he pays zakat on it, and therefore there is no nisab, there is no minimum amount, and there is no hawl, meaning he cannot wait for an entire hijri year to pass on his possession of the treasure. The moment he finds it, whether it's small or big, he pays 20%, 1/5 or 20% of the treasure he found. And with this, we come to the end of this lesson. I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to make us among those who listen to the word and follow the best of it. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.